What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Never Lag. I'm one of your hosts, Levi, joined by the man who fell in the pit, Zach. And today we're taking a look back at the Xbox and Bethesda showcase from this past Sunday. Going to go over our thoughts on some of the reveals, the trailers, just general impressions of the event as a whole and the games within. So, to kick things off here, I'm just curious, Zach, how you feel not about the Xbox Bethesda event in general, but just now that it seems, it's a few days into the week, it seems like this whole Ghost of E3 week is pretty much over. How do you feel about what we got as a whole? All of these showcases from, I think it was last Thursday to now. How did not E3 hit for you this year?
Yeah, I think to answer your question, I have to somehow answer the question you've asked me not to answer, and that will give you the answer to the overarching question. uh, I feel like overall this has been a pretty good Ghost of E3 season. Like the past week has been pretty interesting. I think ranging from good to great. I Oddly enough, I think the Summer Games Fest felt like kind of the flagship event of this Ghost season of E3, and oddly enough, that was the least compelling to me. But it was by no means bad. There were some interesting things in it. It was a decent event. It was better than like a Sony State of Play, right? Um, and it only went uphill from there. The indie, the Day of the Devs showcase actually was really surprising. There was more in that indie showcase that I was interested in than the Summer Games Fest, and that started to feel like, wow, this is really where this kind of felt like the pinnacle of what we're getting. But then now coming to the Xbox Bethesda showcase, which we're going to be getting into in this episode, that kind of felt like a really fitting capstone. Like I ended up being most interested and intrigued in the Xbox and Bethesda showcase. I felt like a lot of the things they showed were things I'm interested in. The batting average was a lot higher. I'm kind of glad that the Bethesda Xbox showcase didn't happen first, because it raised the bar, and I think it would have made the other showcases, particularly Summer Games Fest, kind of disappointing. But because it came at the end, it was a nice surprise and a nice upswell of things to look forward to after a decent couple of events. And then we've had a couple of smaller things like Capcom and whatnot. But overall, it's been pretty good. I think the one downside is this still feels a little bit fragmented. I think you and myself and others in the industry have talked about how it's fun to have like kind of this week-long conference where everybody in video games comes together, and it's this big holiday of video games type thing. But I gave some of those vibes. The fact that these all happened really close together was great. But I honestly think Xbox really brought it, and I was impressed. So I'll leave it at that. What do you think about this Ghost of E3 season?
Yeah, I have similar thoughts. Um, I feel like I really enjoyed this past, 5 days, I guess we'll say, of showcases. I got a lot of enjoyment out of it this year, but I will say the one thing looking back, I feel it is lacking. We did get, and we'll get into Xbox obviously, but Starfield, and honestly, that's kind of the only major. It just feels like this E3 was definitely lacking in the the major AAA announcements kind of out of nowhere, or even updates on things we're expecting, right? A lot of people counting the state of play in the E3, the Ghost of E3 week, which makes sense. It was kind of what kicked things off.
Yeah.
And people are counting that as Sony's presence at the Ghost of E3, and I don't feel that way. I feel like it was mostly third party. It felt kind of just a token throw in. I still am of the mind that Sony was pretty much MIA from this
Mm-hmm.
Ghost of E3 week, and we didn't get any updates on God of War, no release date. Nintendo as well, pretty much MIA. And so it really was just to Xbox, and their major title that they came out with was Starfield. And to their credit, we did get quite a bit of that, which we'll get into. But other than that, it really feels like we were missing those big game announcements.
Yeah.
That aside though, I really enjoyed everything we got. It just felt like the indie scene was on fire this past week.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I legitimately have 20 to 30 new indie games that are on my radar over the next, 12 months, it looks like, that will be coming out and really kind of fill out um, these gaps that we're waiting to fill out. What is going to be coming out in the next 12 months? So I really enjoyed it. Uh, yeah, those are pretty much my thoughts. I do agree that the Xbox and Bethesda showcase on Sunday was definitely the pinnacle of the week. Xbox really brought it, and I mean, just almost everything they showed off looked intriguing to some extent. Whereas, like you said, the Summer Games Fest kickoff on Friday was pretty mid. Like, just it was okay. It wasn't great at all. It kind of felt like Jeff Keighley really couldn't secure much and kind of got stuck with the leftovers this year. So I don't know. I'm hopeful that if Nintendo and Sony have something this month, it'll really round out, this June Ghost of E3 month. But we still have no word on that front. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. Before we get into it, I'm curious, have your thoughts changed on the state of play from Sony? Because people loved that state of play, and I just was like, man, it's slightly better than average, but it still was just kind of, I don't know, it didn't do anything for me. But I've been shocked
Yeah.
to see the feedback, and everyone's just like, man, that state of play. I've heard people say the state of play was better than Xbox Bethesda
Hmm.
showcase, and I'm just like, I can't even fathom that. But
Yeah. I pretty I pretty thoroughly disagree with the notion that the state of play. I mean, to each their own. Obviously, have your own
right.
opinion. Wallow in your wrongness. But uh, no, I mean, yeah, to each their own. But I pretty thoroughly disagree with the state of play being anywhere near the Xbox showcase. Even like the Summer Games Fest, I think was a little bit better. Uh, that being said, I don't think my opinion's changed. My opinion on Sony's recent state of play is that it was better than their average or their past handful of state of plays. I think there was some interesting stuff in it. Stray particularly is like, I'm trying to remember what was in it. Stray is the first thing that comes to mind. That looks pretty cool. There are a few other things that I thought looked good, but that's comparative to other states of play.
Right. That's the
Comparative to
context there.
the other events we've had between Summer Games Fest and then particularly the Day of the Devs, Devolver Digital Showcase, and the Xbox Bethesda Showcase, it doesn't quite compete. And so, I wish Sony had a better strategy for how to reveal content and when to reveal content, and we're just generally better at communicating with gamers and with their audiences.
Yeah.
I think if they had something like Xbox, even if it was like, 50% is good, that, and it was in the same week, that would have been killer. If we had gotten something God of War, like if we'd gotten that state of play with some God of War gameplay footage, and they had done a little bit better job hyping some of the things, and that was in the mix of this past week, that would have been amazing. But it was fine. I don't think it was a bad state of play, but compared to the other stuff going on, I think Sony's struggling, and I hope that they can take notes and like put a little bit more effort into the showmanship that we saw, particularly from Xbox. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm looking back through the state of play, and it's just okay. Like, I can't even come to terms with that being better than what Xbox brought on Sunday. And like you said, if we got this state of play, and then Sony were communicating, hey, later in the month we're bringing all our first party information, fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with this state of play. It's that this was seemingly their contribution to
Mm-hmm.
the Ghost of E3, and it's like, I don't know. It leaves a lot to be desired. Like you said, you look back and it's Stray is kind of the standout.
Yeah.
Callisto Protocol
Final
was
Final
cool.
Fantasy, Callisto Protocol. That was our first look at that,
Yeah.
which
And
we
then
saw in
Final
other
Fantasy
events, but
16.
Final Fantasy as well
Um,
was cool.
but that was pushed to 2023. I don't know. It was okay. This isn't about state of play. I was just
To be
curious
fair, a
because I've
lot of the
gotten
things in the Xbox showcase are 2023 as well. But
that's true.
um,
But Xbox came out and communicated what their plan was with this entire
right,
event, the
yeah,
next
yeah,
12
no,
months.
they did a much better
So,
job. I agree.
and so, yeah. Anyways, we're still left to wonder what are half, if not most, of Sony's first party studios up to right now. We don't know, and we haven't known for a long time. So, anyways, getting into clear your mind here from the Xbox showcase. Let's get into it from Sunday. What is the standout? What do you think of? What stood out? What comes to mind when you think of this showcase? Any one thing?
Oh man, a couple of things come to
A
mind for
couple,
me.
one couple of
Do I
things.
have
I
to? Do
said
I have to
clear your
pick
mind,
one?
Zach.
My mind is a muddled mess. Um, Man, I think oddly, I'm gonna pick one thing by answering multiple things. This is my cheat
That's
code.
classic.
I
Classic.
Starfield, oddly enough, I don't think is the top thing for me, even though it feels like it should be. Although I generally liked what I saw. Um, I want to pick Hollow Knight Silksong because first of all I love Hollow Knight, and seeing more of the gameplay of being Hornet in this upcoming game was amazing. The lack of a date kind of leaves it very nebulous, and it's like, do they not know when this is coming out? Xbox, the head of Xbox said that everything was going to be coming out within the next 12 months. So I think the implication is that it'll be coming out within about a year. But a lot of other things had 2023 on them, whereas Silk Song did not. So I think the ambiguity there is a little frustrating. My hope is that they're going to surprise us fairly soon with this game, but
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to. Like, that feels a little bit too hopeful. So that
It's
kind of
funny. It's
yeah, that
funny
kind of
that you
mars that
say
a little
that
bit.
because that's my answer. When I think of the Xbox showcase, it did so many things well, which we'll get
Mm-hmm.
into. This isn't going to be an exhaustive. We're not going to go through every single game, but most of them. And when I clear my mind and think of the showcase, I think of Silk Song and the fact that there was no date. Like, that was just the most exciting and then like depressing thing that has ever happened, because we've been waiting. Like, Silk Song is the next Elden Ring. Like, I feel like so many people are waiting for this game and waiting for a release date. Any word from Team Cherry, and it's showing up here second in the showcase almost felt unceremonious. Like, it just kind of, there was no build up to it. It just was out of nowhere, which
Yeah.
was a little odd. And then the whole time I think we got like a minute, maybe more of gameplay. I'm just thinking, oh, this is it. Like, this is, I can't believe this is it. It felt unceremonious, but here we go. We're gonna get it, and then and then it closes out. Not even a window, nothing. And I was just like, man, that was such a. It left me feeling hollow, right?
Oh, um,
But
yeah.
anyways,
I'm trying to think of a pun about Hornet's Nest to follow on, but I can't quite connect the dots, so we'll just
swing and a
stop.
miss.
Um, yeah, part of me is hopeful that this is like the secret ploy where they don't give us a date, and then a month from now they're like, "Here it is." But I feel like they would have been excited to share that they have something coming. Um, it's weird that they didn't put 2023 because they had a lot of things that just gave next year, and if it's within the next 12 months, you'd think they'd feel comfortable putting next year on it. So I really don't know what to make
Yeah,
it. That's maybe one of the things. It's oddly the thing I'm most excited about from the showcase, and I also think it's maybe the biggest miss or whiff for me, is that
yeah.
they've
Like, if
really
there
failed
was
to
a date,
communicate or
this would have
set
just been like
expectations.
Xbox Xbox did it. Like, I mean, that's a
Yeah,
huge, to secure the date and the gameplay showcase for Hollow Knight Silk Song is not quite Elden Ring, but it feels like the closest thing that's left right now. I mean, other than
right.
Starfield, right? So,
And even if it was
yeah,
2023, then at least we have an idea, and we're like, okay,
yeah,
I can moderate my expectations, and I can be excited about this. And I am excited that we saw more gameplay footage, because part of me started worrying, like, did something happen to Team Cherry? Did they drive off a bridge or something? Like, it's
no,
nice to see progress on the game, because we're eagerly anticipating it. And if the answer is they're making progress, it looks great, it's going to be another year, I'm okay with that. We got plenty of games to play, but it's a lot more frustrating to be like, is this coming out in a month? Is this coming out in 2 years? Does this fit in with their implication about everything
no.
coming out? It is weird. So,
And
um,
and to speak
yeah,
to the like ambiguity there, I have two different thoughts because, like you said, if it were coming out in 2023, you think they would just throw that up there, right? Because even if their intention is to hit first half 2023 and make that 12-month window that Xbox promised in the showcase, if it gets delayed to fall 2023, you still
Still
said
2023.
2023, right? That's
Right.
kind of just on Xbox. It's kind of a gray line. It's not like you even missed a date, really.
Right.
So my thought is that I guess my thought is then it's my hopeful thought is it's coming out this year, because otherwise why not just put 2023, unless somehow they think this could slip to 2024, which I can't even go there. So I have to think maybe this is coming out in 2022, and maybe Xbox didn't secure, maybe someone paid Team Cherry even more money. Maybe it's Sony or Nintendo, the direct that's supposedly coming later this month. Maybe they promised Team Cherry more money to
Maybe.
announce the
Yeah.
date, to secure the rights to announcing the date, and Xbox just got a gameplay trailer. That's kind
Right.
of my thought, because yeah, otherwise I don't understand why you don't just put 2023.
That also fits in with the unceremoniousness of the placement of it's just kind of second in a lineup and it just they move along to the next thing. It kind of that could fit with that theory. So I like that idea. I think that um, there is logic behind that. So let's hope it's that and it's not that it's just much
Yeah.
further out. But if
So we
only we
kind of
had a sense
started,
of what Nintendo was doing or Sony was
or
doing.
Sony. Yeah, for goodness sakes, like it's exhausting trying to wait on these companies and figure out what they're doing. But yeah, I feel like Hollow Knight Silk Song and the release date would be a perfect one more thing to a showcase. You know, if Nintendo comes out with a direct, they finish
Mm,
with a big game, and then they go, oh wait, we have one more thing, and it's Hollow Knight Silk Song with a release date. Like that is a banger way to end a showcase.
yeah.
And or even if Sony were to do that. So like you said, the second being the second game without any sort of like build up to it felt rather unceremonious. So maybe that's the case. We'll wait
So
to find out. Hopefully it's not 2024. That would be
hopefully not.
demoralizing. But
You know what? But you know what I think was really the most exciting thing that we saw in this showcase? We saw that Hideo
I don't think we
Kojima
saw any
has
NFTs.
another idea. That's it. We don't know
That
what the
was
idea is. He just said he
It's
has an
coming in the
idea.
next 12 months. His idea is coming in the next 12 months.
His idea,
According
yeah,
to,
not the game. His idea is coming in the next 12 months. And
I
let's
know
be
that was
fair,
funny.
Hideo Kojima has great ideas. There's a reason we're all waiting on that. I don't know. Well, we might touch on that again later, but that was a hilarious part of the showcase where let's see what Hideo Kojima is doing. And he's like, I have a new idea and I'm excited to work with Xbox.
I'm
He's
excited
one of
to
the
have
few
it
people in
done.
the world who has the clout to just show up and say that, and that's good.
Yeah, exactly. That was definitely like the one standout of the show. Like, which of these was not like the others? Because they're
Yeah.
like, everything's coming in the next 12 months. And then they're like, we're announcing a partnership with Hideo Kojima that's probably going to release in 2028.
Yeah.
So, anyways, let's try and get some semblance of order here as we've skipped around. The showcase kicked off with Redfall, which we've seen before, coming from Bethesda. And that is their, I don't even know what to describe this game as, but it's a vampire kind of first person shooter, like team based first person shooter co-op survival game is what it looks like.
Mhm.
um how did you feel about this, you know, the trailer in general, the game? Did this move the needle for you, up, down? Not at
Moved
all.
it up a little. Yeah, moved it up a little bit for me. I haven't been closely following Redfall. Wasn't something I was crazy interested in. Uh, I thought they did an excellent job with the way they cut the trailer, the types of gameplay they showed, the choice of music. That'll be a kind of a theme, consistent theme throughout this entire showcase. Um, the setting looked really interesting. It felt straight out of a Stephen King novel. You're in or you're up in the Northeast of the U.S. I think you're off the coast of, was it Massachusetts
Something
or
like that, yeah.
Maryland? One of one of those.
Northeast somewhere.
And you're on, a small town on an island. Very, very Stephen King novel vibes. Um, and yeah, it kind of felt like an interesting take on what the zombie genre has felt like over the past decade, but now it's these vampires, which are more intelligent, far more agile. It felt different enough that I was kind of intrigued by hunting and running from these terrifying vampires. It also struck a really interesting tone. It was kind of a mix of, I don't know, um, slightly snarky and sarcastic mixed with fairly horrifying things happening in the world, but in a way that kind of seemed to click. Like that often can, I think, fall
Yeah, it
flat
kind of
or just be
worked.
too dissonant, and it kind of worked. But overall, I was very intrigued. It made me feel like I want to pick up the controller and start playing this. And I was not expecting that for Redfall. I know there's type fans of these types of games who were obviously going to be interested in this, but I found myself kind of looking at this like I actually might give this a shot. What about you?
Yeah, I thought this was a really, this is kind of a theme throughout this whole thing, which I'll just say up front. I think their presentation was stellar throughout this entire showcase. You look at Nintendo Directs and State of Plays, and they kind of are what they are, but they don't really bring, the presentation is lacking. They don't bring hype. They're kind of almost, they feel like a PowerPoint presentation half the time, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought Xbox did such a great job of, whether it was the music that these trailers were put to, or
Mm-hmm.
whoever was cutting the trailers together. Um, it just had such like attitude and, I don't know, hype. They just did a
Yeah.
good job with this entire showcase. So, and that was the case here with Redfall. They did such a great job kind of starting with that first, um, just straight gameplay for the first few minutes. And like you said, kind of that creepy horror vibe you were getting. And then cutting from there to the more quippy action, getting to know the characters, throwing in that the song in the background. Like, it just was a really well done, well executed showcase of the game. So much so that, yeah, like I really, this game looked so forgettable to me before this showcase. And afterwards I
Mm-hmm.
was like, hey, that looks unique. It looks kind of cool. It looks like it's doing some cool things. So yeah, I thought it was definitely very well done. And that one just got delayed to 2023. So we'll wait for more specifics on the date on that one. But after that, we talked about came Hollow Knight Silk Song, which was fantastic to see. It looks
Gameplay
like,
looks amazing.
yeah, it looks exactly like it should, but still no date, as we talked about, which was soul
Mm-hmm.
crushing. And then, I mean, man, talk about kicking it off with a killer top three lineup here. They went to High on Life, which is
Yeah.
from, let's see, the creators of Rick and Morty. It's Justin Roiland, and I forget what it's Squanch Games, I think, is their their
Squanch,
team name, right?
Squanch
And
games. Yeah.
this is either their second or third game. I can't remember if they've made two before this. I know they've at least
Mm-hmm.
made one. And this game, um, I thought this game looked awesome. What did you think?
This was actually, when you asked me what like the one highlight was, I considered this. That's how
Yeah,
good it looks. It doesn't quite take the cake, but dude, this looks really good. So it's this wacky sci-fi. It gave me obviously Rick and Morty vibes. It has Justin Roiland and some of the voice actors, and you have these weird alien guns that like talk to you and have very bizarre senses of personality. The combat's kind of wacky, but it also gave me like old school Ratchet and Clank vibes in terms of kind of the satirical parody-esque comedy that is happening, like the commentary type comedy happening in a sci-fi setting where there's kind of this cynical sarcastic sense of humor with weird and wacky sci-fi elements and guns that do very strange things. So it felt like a more adult, more Rick and Morty-esque version of Ratchet and Clank, which is a combo I had never considered. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is absolutely for me. And it looks like the quality is good. The gameplay looked really good. The animation style looked great. The guns look really fun and weird to use. The settings looked super cool. Like I'm super excited to explore. Very imaginative, and I mean, if you've seen Rick and Morty, you kind of get like they've got good imaginations, and that was on full display here. I like laughed a couple of times during this trailer. It was great. What did you think of High on Life?
yeah, same. I got a lot of the same feelings from it. For some reason, it always takes me back to that old school Ratchet and Clank feeling, like you said. Um, I don't know if that's just the genesis of this overall feel for a game for me, but yeah, it kind of hit that. And like you said, Rick and Morty. I think what's really cool is that this being their second or third game, you can tell that they've really kind of upped their quality here.
Mm-hmm.
Their first game, I believe, was a VR game, and I've heard good things about it, but you can kind of tell it. VR is always lagging behind a little bit, anyways. This game visually looks fantastic. Uh, looks very polished, very stylized. Like you said, the world, the set pieces, the characters, the guns that you're firing that are sentient and talk to you. All of it just looks really polished. I was watching an interview and they mentioned that they're an indie studio, but this is kind of like their first attempt at a triple A, quote unquote triple A title. Then they go on to make a joke, we're triple I for indie. But you really do get the sense from this trailer, like it looks like a step up from what they've done. And I love the different voice actors they've gotten. It looks like it's just going to have so much personality. And from what I've seen about the game, the premise is that there are these different I don't know if they're drug lords. I think that's what they refer to them as, because they're like smuggling humans, or I don't remember the full concept, but there's like 4 or 5 of them, and your job is to go basically hunt down these drug lords in various dimensions or parts of the universe. And like you said, the environments look awesome. This leaves them up as usual to complete creativity for the environments and the enemies and everything, which look just bizarre and out of this world, as they should. And yeah, just the whole premise of the game mixed with the gameplay just looks like it's really gonna hit. It looks like it has it all. And this one is coming out. Let's see. I thought I had it here. I think it's coming out
It's
in
this year, right?
October. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
coming out this
I believe it
fall.
is. Yeah.
Yes, it's launches this October on Xbox, PC, and Game Pass. So, pretty excited about that one. That was kind of one of the. I feel like that was one of the few truly out of nowhere games that really stood out. I think a lot of these. Well, that's not fair. We got some other
I got a
announcements
few others,
but
I think. Yeah.
like you said, this one really did stand out in such a way where if you clear your mind and think of the showcase, this is one of the games that really separated from the others. So after that, we got more of an in-depth look. Actually, I think this is the first time we've gotten gameplay of A Plague Tale Requiem, a full new trailer of that. And you said you thought this looked interesting. Was this kind of the first you'd seen of this game? I was trying to gauge your reaction to this.
I'd seen a little bit. I haven't paid super close attention to Plague Tale. I haven't played the first Plague Tale. I'm forgetting what it's called.
Plague Tale
But
Innocence, I believe.
yeah, something like that. I thought this looked kind of interesting. It gave me vibes between like The Last of Us and Dishonored in a way, where you're kind of sneaking around. There's stealth involved, but there's some combat. But it also seems like there's a strong narrative of you're surviving in, I don't know exactly what time period, but the plague is happening. I'm forgetting what century that was, but
The Plague. The
the big
1900s, I
one,
believe.
the big one. But it looked kind of cool. I'm intrigued. It's not like top of my list, but I'm actually mildly interested in this one, a little bit more so than I was previously. And there were some interesting additional mechanics they showcased, like you might be able to control a swarm of rats, is kind of the implication at the end of the trailer, which I've always wanted to do.
It's been on the bucket list.
It's been on my bucket list. So yeah, I think that looks kind of cool. It's not top of my list, but I'll be keeping an eye out for reviews. I don't know if that's something day one. If it hits it out of the park, I might. Otherwise, I could see that being something I pick up on a sale and play at some point. But what about you? I think you were a little bit more lukewarm on this one.
Yeah, so A Plague Tale Innocence, I was going to say 15th century, but I just looked it up. It says it's set in the 14th century in
That was
France
going to be my
during the
guess.
100 Years' War. So, A Plague Tale Innocence, the previous game to the sequel coming out, the prequel, I suppose you would say, is a game that like a lot of people really liked. I actually own it. I think I own it both on PlayStation and PC because it's been free at various times. And it's just a game I've never gotten into. I started and played like the first half an hour and bounced off of it. And so I'm kind of coming from that standpoint of like, I've already bounced off the first game. I don't know how much the second game looks like it's going to change things. It looks like it's more of it. It does look like, so the first game called A Plague Tale Innocence, obviously kind of indicating the protagonists are kind of, they're kind of innocent to an extent. They haven't dealt with the brutality of what's going on in this world. And now the sequel being A Plague Tale Requiem, we kind of saw it's kind of doing that Shadow of the Tomb Raider thing where she gets more jaded, more violent, more equipped to handle things. and that's kind of what's happening in the sequel. Looks like she's much more capable of taking down various foes and things in this game, uh, and the kind of the darkness that comes along with that. So that's kind of the theming I got from this, and yeah, it looks cool. The first one was very impressive graphically for it being an indie title, and this one looks like it looks to follow suit with that. I don't know. I kind of, if I had to guess, I probably won't play this because I didn't play the first one, but it looks good. We don't have a specific date. It looks like it's just still labeled 2022. And I did pick it up in our Fantasy Critic League. So I was counting on it to do at least fairly well and come out this year. And I didn't see anything that really scared me about this. So it looks like it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be more of what people liked about the first one if you played it and enjoyed it. So from there, we got a look at Forza Motorsport, which is coming next year. And so this is our first week. This year we got Forza Horizon 5, I
Mm-hmm.
believe. And so this is more of the less arcadey, more of the actual racing sim, more akin to like Gran Turismo 7 or something like that. And so yeah, this was our first look at it, and I gotta say, I was blown away by this showcase. It made me angry all over again at Polyphony and Gran Turismo 7, as we've discussed off air. But like, this is how you do it. Like everything. Though, first of all, the way they showed this off with the one cut camera and everything in engine, that's how you show a game. Like
Mm-hmm.
just awesome way to show off a game. And then secondly, the fact that they actually they actually built a new game. Like that was one of my biggest gripes with Gran Turismo 7, is that this is supposed to be a marquee visual showcase of the PS5, right? That's what Gran Turismo has almost always been. And the fact that you get into that game and you can clearly tell that they've pulled assets from Gran Turismo Sport, or maybe even earlier. Like you look at the grass on the side of the track, and it looks, some of it looks like PS3 graphics. It's terrible. And that's kind of, you see that everywhere in Gran Turismo 7. Then you look at this and they go to like the side of the track, and it looks like a modern open world game that you would explore, right? That you
Mm-hmm.
can see the individual blades of grass and things sticking up and flowers, and there's a tire on the side of the track, and they show the like this whole level that they showcased, which you'll probably be looking at now, has like a river beside the track, and you just see all this natural environment that looks like a next gen game amidst the racing game. So I was just really impressed with this as a whole. Like visually, it actually looks like a showcase, like a next gen title, and I'm really looking forward to this because Gran Turismo 7 um, really sucked. Well, it was good, but it really just depressed me in a lot of ways, and this seems to um, really be doing a lot of things right. I hope that Polyphony will the competition will be good for them. But this was, I really enjoyed this. What do you think?
Yeah, I fully agree. It looked phenomenal. Gran Turismo 7 was disappointing. It Parts of it looked fairly good. Parts of it looked really bad. Like you mentioned, some of the assets, grass on the road, trees in the distance. And I remember trying to come to terms with it over the first couple of days I played. I was like, I want this to be amazing. And it just
This
doesn't,
looks fine.
um, and the fact that, there's only ray tracing during replays.
Yeah,
It felt phoned in. Um, and Horizon Motorsport looked next gen, and it's all, like you said, all in engine. We're seeing what we're going to be seeing when we play this. Um, the All of the visuals looked amazing. The trees in the distance, the water, the detail of gravel and little bits of rock on the road, the cracks in the cement. Um, the lighting and the shadows, the ray
yeah.
tracing on
The
the
way that
cars.
the time of day,
Mm-hmm.
changes naturally, and the shadows change, and
Yeah,
yeah,
and
it was fantastic.
then just like the ray tracing on the cars while you're playing, like it's there.
I love how they kept saying ray tracing on track. Like, just
Yeah,
you could tell they were jabbing at Polyphony because it's so absurd
yeah,
that there is no mode that allows ray tracing while playing the game in Gran Turismo
I
7.
mean,
Like,
deservedly so.
what?
Like,
Yeah,
it
I
shows
loved
that
it. I loved it. Every time they said it, I was like, yes, get them.
it, it it shows that like Polyphony really put their time and energy into into a broken or a predatory monetization system. Building that out was their focus with Gran Turismo 7. Whereas, I mean, who knows? I don't know exactly how the
Yeah, we don't know. I mean, it'll be
monetization
on
will
Game
be,
Pass, so
but it seems like they certainly put more time and attention into some of the core things that matter. So I am absolutely planning to look at this game. I've never played much Forza. I kind of stuck to Gran Turismo. I don't play a ton of racing games, but this and then something they show later both have me excited for Forza as a franchise, and for two reasons. One, this feels like something I might just enjoy playing and could become one of my like my new main racing game if it's as good as it looks. But then two, hopefully this pushes Polyphony and Sony to try harder in terms of the quality of the next iteration of Gran Turismo or potentially updating Gran Turismo 7. I don't have super high confidence that that will happen because, again, I think it's not uh, capability as much as it's what are they interested in investing in. And both Polyphony has shown, despite the backlash, they just raised the prices of a bunch of in-game vehicles based on real-world costs of vehicles, which are going up because of there's a war going on and the economy is not going great. We might be heading into a recession, and Gran Turismo was like, let's raise prices in a video game that people escape to. That's the type of mentality they have. I don't know that this is going to change that. And Sony's kind of focused on monetization over the next 5 years as well. But regardless, hopefully they make some changes. Even if not, we now have competition to go to experience a good racing game. So this looks fantastic.
yeah, we'll see. We'll definitely see because, like you said, we don't know the monetization behind this, and it being on Game Pass, we'll see. But it does feel kind of backwards, right? When we
But at
talked
least
about
the
Game
quality is
Pass,
there.
the quality's there. But when we first talked about Game Pass, we were like, oh, that's going to lead to a deterioration of quality, and all these aggressive monetization strategies. And so it feels so backwards that Gran Turismo 7 is the Sony title, and what we've seen here um, from Forza Motorsport is the Game Pass title. Like you
Yeah.
would think you'd swap them, right? So I don't know. We'll see as we get a little bit closer. That one is scheduled for 2023 as well. No specific date. From here, the show, this is probably the lull for me in the show. There's a few here that are just kind of not my style. We got Microsoft Flight Simulator, Overwatch 2, Aura. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced. I don't remember. History Untold, which was a turn-based historical strategy game that I don't think we got any gameplay for. And then Elder Scrolls Online has a new expansion. Fallout 76 has a new
The
expansion. So
Pit.
all of this
I
was
might
just
have to
kind
play
of
it. As the man who
you.
fell in the pit, doesn't
There you
matter
go.
how bad it is. I have to fall
You
right,
are
right down into that
contractually
pit.
obligated from
That's
Neverlag
right.
to play Fallout 76 The
Ah,
Pit. So sorry about that.
oh man, that's a
But
bummer.
yeah,
But
from there we went back into more Forza, going back to Forza Horizon 5, which came out this past year, and we got the announcement that was a lot of people were thinking was coming, and here it is, Hot Wheels. The expansion is arriving on July 19th, and this looks magical.
this looks amazing.
Like
Yeah,
that's probably the
I
word
haven't
I would use.
I haven't picked up Horizon or Horizon, uh,
Horizon,
Forza. I my brain's not working. Forza,
Horizon 5.
Horizon 5, Forbidden West, Hot Wheels. Um,
Exactly.
I haven't picked that game up because I was waiting for Gran Turismo, and I was like, I'm not really going to play two racing games. And now, one, I want to support their franchise a little bit more after what they've been showing. But two, this looks so good. When the Hot Wheels game came out last year, that looked kind of neat, but I heard mixed things. But the concept was there, and so taking it like a well-known and like great racing game and then adding the Hot Wheels layer is perfect. And the way they've done it, like they have such a sense of epic scale of like these Hot Wheels tracks through the sky and between mountains, and it looks so cool. I plan to pick up Forza specifically for this expansion.
Yeah, and you don't even have to because it's on Game Pass. You got to pick it up for
I
$10
gotta
for a
I
month.
need to
But
turn my Game Pass back on is what it
right,
is.
yeah. So, yeah, this is just. I just thought visually this was so cool because it's marrying the realism of, the really nice graphics that Forza Horizon 5 had when it came out, with this completely imaginative fantasy, just embellished Hot Wheels version where like you have these, and it'll be on the screen as well, but you have these tracks like winding around mountains and up through the clouds, and it's just, waterfall. It's almost like Pandora-esque from Avatar,
Mm,
right? Like just
hmm.
these huge mountains with waterfalls, and you're in the clouds, and there's Hot Wheel tracks running around everything. It also gave me pretty strong um, comparisons to um, oh, never mind. I'll come back because I can't remember the name of it. But there's another racing game that I've played that's very arcadey, much less of a sim, and just one of my favorite racing games. And it really reminded me of that. When I think of the name, I'll come back and blurt it out later in the show. But this looks awesome. It's coming soon, so it's one of those things we can throw on our um, schedule for here in the next 2 months. Which there's actually quite a few things from this past week that are coming out in like July or August. So that's really cool to have things we can add in the near term here, which is not too frequent in the land of video games. It's usually 2024 or something like that.
Right.
We gotta look at Arc 2, um, which I don't know.
Vin
It
Diesel
looks
on a
so
T-Rex.
Vin Diesel
Yeah.
on a T-Rex. I mean, you'd
Why
think
not?
that would do it for me, but I guess not. I don't know. It looks okay. Does this
Kind of did it
excite
for
you in
me.
any way?
A
It
little
did.
bit. A little
It did
bit.
it for
Yeah.
Zach.
Oh, it did it
Got you a little
for
hot and
me.
bothered, huh?
Yes. As much as I am ashamed to admit it, yeah. No, I'm not ashamed at all. Yeah, it's not top of my list, but I love dinosaurs. I have Ark Evolved on my computer. Started playing
So
that a
have you
little bit
played
with.
have you played the other ones? You have.
I played Evolved a little bit.
Okay.
I'm not clear exactly what type of like is this what type of game this is going to be. Um, because Ark
Yeah, I don't
Ark
know.
Evolved is like a kind of a survival type game. If we get something that has more of a narrative component, I'm absolutely in. So, um, I'll be keeping an eye on this. I love dinosaurs. The Ark franchise is enjoyed by quite a few people. So this was neat.
It's kind
I
of
would
hard to
like to see more
imagine
though.
that. Yeah, it's kind of hard to imagine that they would go grab Vin Diesel and not have a narrative element, but at the same
That's what I
time,
would
I could
think. But
also really see that happening. So I don't know.
yeah,
We'll see. Maybe we'll jump into this. Who knows?
maybe. I just realized throughout the Ghost of E3, we've gotten Vin Diesel appearances, we've gotten The Rock appearances. The rivalry of the ages, like a Fast and Furious character rivalry. Um, although I will say Vin Diesel's appearance was a lot more fitting. Like he's in a video game that's being showcased versus The Rock jumping in
Right.
with shilling his energy
But
drinks. So
essentially, they both boil down to both of them taking their shirts off and showing off, right? So
right, but one of them was
same
on a
difference.
T-Rex in game, and the other one was in his real life home gym.
So Vin Diesel
Basically,
wins.
Vin Diesel, I think, wins
Yeah.
for the showcase. But yeah, it's a tangent.
So whoever made that wager, I looked it up because it was going to drive me crazy. Trackmania Turbo is the arcade racer that this
Mm.
Hot Wheels update reminded me of, with the gravity tracks and everything. If anyone knows Trackmania Turbo out there, it's, first of all, it's a stellar game. It's available on PlayStation Extra now, so go play that game. It's tons of fun. But this reminded me a lot of it, the Forza Horizon 5 Hot Wheels
Not
expansion.
Vin
So
Diesel.
not
Forza.
Vin Diesel did not remind me of Trackmania Turbo. Okay, from there we got Scorn. Another look at Scorn. So this was shown off. I don't know if it was a year ago. We've seen this before. Very, very disturbing, creepy first-person shooter type of game. We got some more gameplay, and this one's coming out this year in October 21st. I don't know what to make of this. I can't tell if this looks fun or horrible, or I'm not sure what
Something in
mixture of
between.
the two it is,
Yeah,
and whether or not it equals me trying it. But I don't
that's
know. It's like I can't look away.
yeah. That's the real question. Is like I'm not sure if this will be something I'd quite try. I'm intrigued. It looks kind of fun in some ways. It's absolutely horrifying. It's kind of a grotesque body horror type game where it's like uh, you're mangling yourself and there's all these like fleshy
fleshy
creatures
is
and
the word.
pustules and ziggurats, and you're navigating this terrain, shooting things, and it looks kind of gory, which is super gory is not like my go-to preference. So I don't know, but I will say it captures a certain vibe and aesthetic that seems very intentional. Like it almost has a what's the guy who did the original artwork that inspired the Alien franchise was H.R.
Oh,
Geiger, I think.
I have no idea.
I believe it's H.R.
It
Geiger.
does kind of feel like that.
It kind of fits some of those like vibes of like this horrifying alien setting with that twists what humanity is like in a way that makes it interesting. Like you can't look away, kind of
Very
morbid, but
surreal too, morbid and
kind of
surreal.
surreal. Yeah. So those things are interesting. I feel like they're doing something that is definitely interesting
I
and
feel like
stands out.
I feel like if you get three words, it would be morbid, surreal, and fleshy. I think you
Yeah.
nailed it right there. That's this game in
Great.
a nutshell. So
I think this is going to like hit a niche group of players for sure. Like I think it's being what it is, and so I think there's going to be probably assuming the gameplay is relatively enjoyable. This is probably going to be have a
yeah,
subset of fans. I don't know how widely this will appeal, but I'm interested in seeing how it lands, and I could see myself trying it, but I'm not sold mainly because I don't know if the genre is quite the click for me, but it's something else. It's
yeah.
fascinating.
Well, I think it'll certainly come down to the quality of the gameplay, and that is a big question mark for me because we've now seen this a few times. We haven't really seen any extended gameplay that I'm aware of, and so yeah, if the gameplay is quality, I think the aesthetics and the art style, I think people will definitely be into this. But I can't quite put my finger on like, is this gonna feel kind of janky or be kind of a lower budget double A? I'm not really familiar with the studio, so that's kind of my big
Mm-hmm.
question with this: is how is it going to compete in the gameplay department and feel like a quality product, or just kind of lean on its morbidity weirdness, you know?
Right.
So we'll know soon, I guess, because it's coming out this fall. So that's another one to look forward to this year. From there, we got Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, and at first, I was not really loving this. It really has that double A feel to it, which isn't always bad. But the more this went on, and I've watched this trailer now probably two or three times, this looks pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of looks like a Dark Souls ish, a Souls like game, right, in combat, but set in a fantasy pirate. Obviously, the Flintlock being the title, um, very piratey, and you have uh, a pistol in one hand and a weapon in the other, and you've got like this pet fantasy
It's like a
fox
it's like a
thing.
fantasy fennec fox. It's really
Yeah,
neat.
it looks really cool. So yeah, the pirate setting is awesome, and then there's apparently some sort of traversal teleportation mechanic. You see these little yellow triangles pop pop into the screen throughout the world, and it looks like you can interact with them to seemingly teleport or at least very quickly traverse areas. Um, as long as this isn't too janky, I'm really looking forward to this one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
That's
see when.
kind of the one open question is like how like will it be janky at all, and will it be, if so, will it be
Yeah,
kind of in the bounds of tolerable? But it looks pretty good. The combat looks fun. Like they show some different types of fighting where you're wielding like a hatchet, you're dodging blasts from a boss, you pull out your flintlock pistol and shoot. There's like a couple variations of the flintlock pistol as well. There's one that's like a little hand cannon type thing, or it shoots a little grenade or something. Your fox helps you like teleport around, which is really cool. And it just looks super interesting. I like everything looks fun about it. The setting's super neat. The combat looks pretty fun. I'm solidly on board for this one. So hopefully the combat feels relatively tight. That's kind of going back to double A games. Often what you find with Souls likes, from my very
yeah.
limited experience, is that combat can often feel kind of not super tuned, and that's maybe where they get a little bit frustrating. Even with AAA, like a Jedi Fallen Order comes to mind of being something that if the combat had been tuned better, that could have been standout. So there's that open question. But overall, this looks really cool. I'm excited.
Yeah, I don't know if this is Unreal Engine 5. I don't remember if they said that, but graphically it looks very impressive. Um, Yeah, I like a lot of what I see here, and weirdly, it reminds me of Ashen. Uh, some of the environments mixed with the fact that it's kind of a Souls like. For some reason, it's giving me Ashen vibes. Which, if it can hit like Ashen, I mean, Ashen was a great example of a double A Souls like that had an awesome art style, and the gameplay was very tight and felt good to play. So hopefully, this can channel that. And yeah, I'm it's on my radar. I'm looking forward to it. This one comes out. It says early 2023. So another one of those to look forward to for next year. After that, we got Minecraft Legends. I don't have too many thoughts on this one. Never been big into Minecraft, but I will say the art style. It was weird to me that they chose to show this game off. The trailer was such a different art style from the actual gameplay, and I actually found the gameplay to be much more appealing visually than the trailer they showed off. Because for like the first minute or so with the trailer, I was just like not into it. And then when they finally showed gameplay, I'm like, man, this visually looks very cool. I was really liking the visuals of this game. I don't know if it's going to be my style. I think it's kind of a fort building strategy game, is kind of what it seems like. I guess I need more information on this. If it's the style of game I could be into, I really like the art style. Maybe this will be my first Minecraft game I've ever played. But I don't know. Is this even on your radar or just not really?
Not super closely. I haven't played Minecraft since it was in beta, like a decade ago. I played it with a couple
In the
friends
80s?
briefly in beta in the 1980s when Minecraft was in beta. Um, yeah, I'm probably not the best person to ask. I think Minecraft is a cool game. It's just not quite my speed, but I respect it quite a lot.
Yeah.
I agree that the trailer I didn't really care about because I don't really play Minecraft. But then when they showed the gameplay, the art style was really cool looking. Um, Fort building strategy is not my go-to type of game. Neither is Minecraft, so I don't know if this is ever something I'll get to. But it visually looked super cool, so hopefully Minecraft folks will enjoy it. But
Yeah. And I hope that they continue. Minecraft seems like they're really trying to branch out and do different things with their IP. I mean, we just had a dungeon crawler recently. So I hope that they continue down this visual path because, um, the OG Minecraft everyone plays, it's going to keep going till infinity probably, but it does look very dated. Granted, it's Minecraft. You know, it's not really trying to be the most visually appealing thing, but I feel like it could stand to be brought a little more up to date. And this game kind of does
yeah,
that, and it makes it more appealing to someone on the outside looking in, like myself. So
right.
hopefully they
If you
continue
make
to do that.
or if they make a Minecraft like puzzle game or RPG or a mix of those elements, like if you can imagine like The Witness mixed with that visual style of Minecraft, something like that would be really neat. I might
Yeah,
be into that. But
yeah.
yeah,
There's definitely some things you could do with it that I would be interested in as someone who doesn't play Minecraft games. So that one, I don't think we have a date on that one. I'll have to look in a little deeper. There's no date here. After that, we got Lightyear Frontier, which was another kind of, I think, one that might go under the radar, but it was a standout for me. And
mm-hmm.
at first, it shows you're in this mech on an alien planet, and you're essentially just, it's classic survival stuff. You're going around, you're cutting trees up, you're gathering resources, you're um, creating a little home for yourself with planter boxes and growing grain and food and different things. So it kind of has that um, sim vibe where you're just kind of classic survival tropes. But what I really liked about this game, first of all, I think the art style is great. I love the art style for this. And it kind of gave me, what were the two games I mentioned? It was Subnautica and I'm forgetting the other comparison now. But later in the trailer, we get to see that there's more going on, right? Which I think was needed, at least for me. Because at first I was like, oh, this looks cute. It looks kind of fun. But this really isn't my style of game. But later on, you see there is some sort of mystery to the world, some sort of alien tech that you're uncovering as you continue to venture out farther and explore more about this world here in Lightyear Frontier. So, yeah, Subnautica is one of the biggest one that comes to mind. It just reminds me of that. I really enjoy that genre when you mix the survival elements with a greater overarching mystery or narrative that you're trying to uncover about this location. and this kind of looks exactly like that. So this is probably one of my top games from the showcase that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, this was in the top 5 for me as well for pretty much the same reasons. Like the vibes were great from the get go. The planet is alien but kind of comforting. Like they're
Outer
it's a
Worlds,
Outer Worlds, yeah. Uh,
that's what it was.
it also gave me Outer Wilds vibes in terms of the music, the musical selection, kind of a
Oh wait,
soft
did I get it
acoustic.
backwards? Outer Wilds,
Oh,
yes.
is that what you meant? Okay, then
I think it's the
yes,
first time I've ever made that mistake because that's a classic mistake. But yeah,
I make
Outer
it all the
Wilds
time.
is the
Yeah.
one. Yep.
Um, yeah. So I think the art style and but also like the setting and the world, it's kind of comforting yet still alien, which is really cool. It looks kind of zen and peaceful at times. Mechs are neat. The idea, like survival games, can be fun, but like you, I like to have another element to it. Survival games where that's the sole purpose. Uh, they just don't hold me as much. I feel like they're never ending, and in a way they kind of are. But when you have a narrative purpose to it, of like you have to solve these overarching mysteries or puzzles or figure out what's going on in the world, that's such a good impetus to then like enjoy the survival aspects, but have a clear, defined goal that you're trying to reach. And the fact that they showcase that they're like you're trying to figure out this greater mystery of alien tech, and it shows this cool door with purple lights. Um, Now I'm pretty solidly on board, and then the music too is just it with the Outer Wilds vibes of this acoustic kind of Zen music playing as you explore and you know build structures and do all these things and uncover the mystery. It sounds like a great time. I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah. As I'm looking back through the trailer here, first of all, the art style and the just the graphics of this game are fantastic. I love the very cartoony, stylized, but still high fidelity look of this game. It's kind of got some Dr. Seussness almost to it, maybe a little bit.
Mm.
But when the robot takes off out of the town and it's exploring the various areas, it looks like there's some really cool kind of biomes or areas on this world. Yeah, I love everything about this. I can't wait to play this game. And let's see, did we get a date on that one? Lightyear Frontier, spring 2023. So another
Yeah.
early next year game. Man, I wish that one was coming this year, but hopefully it doesn't get delayed out of that window. That would be fantastic. After that, we got Gunfire Reborn. Another look at that, which is coming in October. Kind of just a co-op multiplayer shooter game. It looks like a roguelike kind of Borderlands-y. I don't know.
Yeah.
You have any better words to describe it? It looks okay. Looks like it could be
Yeah.
fun to sit down for a night or two with some friends and play. Um, doesn't seem like it'll be anything more longer lasting than that, but I don't know. We'll see as we get a little bit closer.
Yeah, it's the art style very much has Borderland esque vibes. It's a bunch of like
It's a cool art style.
slightly anthropomorphic animals, so kind of gave me like Sly Cooper vibes a little bit too. Except it's not like a stealth narrative game. It's a gun shooting
Fast paced run and gun.
multiplayer type game. So it looks kind of interesting. I'm not a huge multiplayer person in general. Like you said, it might be fun for us to play this, with a couple of friends for a couple evenings. But for someone who really enjoys multiplayer games, maybe this is more interesting. Like it looks interesting, but it's not really my style. Is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah, not bad by any means though. I could totally see myself checking it out. So after that, this was also one of the top, probably top 5 for me, was The Last Case of Benedict Fox.
Yes. This
And
was the other one when you said you're top for the thing.
Oh
Like
yeah,
this, High on Life, these both came to mind pretty quickly. This is
very
a
visually
contender.
distinct, very
Yeah.
unique looking. So this is a 2D Metroidvania. It looks like that
Mhm.
has what is the
Lovecraftian.
blood Lovecraftian? Yeah,
Yeah.
what is
Blood
Bloodborne?
Bloodbornian.
Lovecraftian, Bloodbornian.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Lovecraftian setting basically, and just looks really cool. I mean, graphically looks great, looks very polished, and the gameplay looks great. The settings are very creepy and have that horror element like you would expect. And we get kind of a glimpse of some different environments, and at the end there a boss. and we're suckers for Metroidvanias in general, but this one really stood out visually, in theme, and as long as the gameplay is there, this figures to be uh, something I will definitely enjoy. And this one is also coming spring 2023. So
I'm wildly
another,
excited for this.
yeah,
I've really come to love Metroidvanias over the past year, and this is the new one I'm really excited. Obviously, Hollow Knight, Silk Song is the other one, but this is up there, and it one it looks like a great Metroidvania, but two, it looks so unique and creative with interesting abilities and traversal powers and things like that. Combat looks interesting, and then kind of the Lovecraftian, like a Victorian manor that descends into uh, planar spatial madness
yeah,
and chaos.
well
Looks
said.
great. Some really, really cool creatures. The boss at the end looks so neat. Um, so yeah, this looks like an absolute blast, and this is something that, assuming it doesn't, the reviews don't just tank, I'll probably be picking this up on day
Yeah,
one.
the visuals are really impressive, I have
Mm-hmm.
to say. And the one thing, my one concern, I guess, is usually when Metroidvanias go for a very impressive visual quality, gameplay tends to suffer a little bit. I think that's part of why Hollow Knight is so great. Is it's beautiful, but it's very simplistic, and for some reason that lends itself towards much tighter, easier gameplay. And I feel like sometimes when Metroidvanias try to get very realistic or go hard on the visuals, sometimes the gameplay gets a little more, little looser. But hopefully this can avoid that because it looks fantastic. So that was
Yeah.
definitely another show stealer for me.
Yep.
After that, we got another look at this one. We've kind of gotten a few looks at over the past few months, but As Dusk Falls, which is another one coming July 19th. I feel like, why is everything coming out? It's either next year or July 19th. For some reason, everyone got together and was like,
That is the
this is
day.
the day. So this is a narrative based um, role playing game. It's not really a role playing game. You basically are making decisions. It's
It's
very
a
akin to
narrative.
like yeah, it's very
The
akin
Walking
to
Dead game by Telltale Games,
yeah, the
where
Telltale series is a yeah,
you
exactly.
make choices and you progress the narrative, and there's some like real time events where you have to do something in a certain time period. It also kind of falls under the like Detroit Human, Become
Yeah,
Human,
Detroit
or
Become Human is one that
Heavy
comes to mind
Rain.
because they show that plot map of like, if you make
Right.
this decision, you can replay it and make different
Right.
decisions, right? Which
Hmm.
typically are not my style. I did play Detroit Become Human, and I kind of came away from it being like, it was okay. I kind of enjoyed it, but wasn't itching to play anything else like that. But the more I've seen of this, I gradually have become more interested in playing this. First of all, the art style, once again, I feel like that's a theme with a lot of these games, but the art style is so unique and just doing something really cool that I enjoy. It feels like it's just fun to look at this game.
Yeah.
So,
It feels like
and then
comic book
yeah,
panels somehow, except as an animated thing. We'll overlay some video because it's hard to describe, but I think it looks unique and interesting as well. And the narrative type games I tend to like a little bit more than you, but it really depends on the narrative, and gameplay is still important. Like I tend to like ones that have a little bit of depth to the gameplay, but I'm interested. I'll be keeping an eye on this as well.
yeah, and to speak to the narrative on this, it seems like the storytelling and the writing is really, from what I've seen, it seems to be really high quality, um, which is going to be important, like you said, because I think the gameplay will be minimum. And yeah, it just seems, I don't know, this might kind of bring me out of my typical zone of games, and I might actually check this one out. So, and that one's next month, so something to look forward to a little sooner. We got to look at Naraka Blade Point. I'm sure I butchered that. I don't remember how that's pronounced, but apparently this is a um, pretty successful multiplayer kind of brawler, third person fighting game. But it is coming to, well, it doesn't say here, but I think it's coming to Game Pass June 23rd. So I don't know, not really something that stood out to me. Um, Pentiment is one that I don't think I'll play, but again has a very striking art style. It's
Hmm.
this mid-century, like you're playing inside of a book, basically a very, a mid-century book, and all the characters are kind of cutouts within this book. And I have heard more about this game. It's kind of interesting. It takes place over a span of like a couple of decades, I think. And so you'll
Hmm.
get to know characters that then grow up and have lives and change. And you're trying to solve a mystery over the course of, I think it's like 25 years. So the whole premise is actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Um, Visually, though, I just don't, as much as it is unique, and I can appreciate it for that. It's not something I am really drawn to. So, what about you? Do you think this is anything you would be interested in, or do you have similar feelings?
Similar feelings. I mean, I love how creative it is. Like the art style of like 1500s, or or what is it, 16th century Bavaria, and it's kind of
Yeah,
like you said,
16th
that
century.
the art style of like I don't know if that's the art style from that time or an art style from a little bit later of what that time was like, but it's kind of peasants and ruling royalty, and kind of there's a kind of a religious um, uh, kind of feel to it. It's hard to describe. I think with the video that we'll overlay, you'll kind of see what we're
Well,
talking
the
about. So
very specific thing they were going for was the book from Shrek, which that was
right,
definitely what they were referencing.
the
So,
religious book of Shrek from the turn of the millennia,
yeah,
right around Bible times. There's also the book of Shrek, um,
that
which
was
is
their
what the movies were
touchstone for
based off
this.
of. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Um, but it looks really interesting. I hope it finds an audience. Like I like it when games are creative. I don't know if it's going to be for me or not, but the idea of like unraveling a mystery is always kind of compelling. But there's so many games to play. I don't know that I'll get around to this, but take a look. It looks very different.
I think it'll speak to certain people. What it's doing well. That's what I'll say. So, after that, we got a refreshed look at Grounded, which has been in beta for at least a year, if not 2 years now. I think it's been on Game Pass, and I dabbled with it for about an hour or two way back when. But here we got the full release trailer, which is launching in fall, uh, or it says in full 2022. I think we actually got a date. I'll have to look into this and see if I can find it. But September or October later this year, I believe. And yeah, so this is the full release, finally 1.0. The story is complete, everything is here. And I was genuinely surprised how hyped this got me for this game because, like I said, I played about 2 hours of it in beta, and it was okay. I played it alone, which I think is, obviously not the intended experience for this game. Um, but also, I'm just not one who, like, I really hate. I don't play games in beta. I really, really don't. It takes a special case for me to try. I almost always wait for the 1.0 release, because I like to have everything there, everything complete. I don't like to be the tester for a game, right? And I appreciate that sometimes it works really well. Um, but I'm really excited about this. The whole narrative that they showed, trying to figure out what's going on, how to get back to, you're essentially, for those who don't know, you are, it's Honey I Shrunk the Kids, right? You're the kids that have shrunk down to insect size in the backyard, and at its core, it's a survival game. So you're gathering resources and creating a base, and strengthening your weapons and getting stronger and fighting spiders and apparently bosses throughout your story gameplay. But there does appear to be some sort of greater narrative mystery as well. And I don't know. I'm actually, if you had told me beforehand that they were going to show the Grounded 1.0 release, I would have probably not cared at all. But after seeing this, I am thoroughly looking forward to this fall. I hope that if you're interested, or my brother or some others, we can hop into this and um, maybe play the full campaign, because I think it looks really good.
I agree. Yeah, the comparison I had was Honey I Shrunk the Kids meets It Takes Two, which is a pretty good pitch as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. Maybe it's being a '90s kid. We're a sucker for the whole Honey I Shrunk the Kids paradigm of getting shrunk down and being in a massive version of a normal environment, and how that becomes an adventure and things become more perilous and interesting. Um, but they kind of play that up where the ants and the spiders are terrifying, and the being in the backyard is super interesting, and hopefully there's some fun like puzzle mechanics, as well as combat. I hadn't played like anything of this prior, but I'm pretty sold on the concept, and so I also think the idea of playing this with a couple of friends sounds really neat. So I'm down. I'm in for a grounded.
Yeah, it seems like they have a lot going on in this game. Like just from the trailer, it feels like there's a lot to discover and do. So I was pretty impressed with it. Yeah, I think anytime you, and we actually had a few games throughout the weekend, not just at the showcase, that were exploring that concept of being really tiny, and it's just a cool concept, right? That's one of the things you can do in video games is, the Toy Story
Be
effect or
tiny,
the Honey I Shrunk the Kids effect, right? Or even
right?
like you said, It Takes Two. So it's a
Yeah.
cool concept, and this looks like a lot of fun. So after that, we got to look at a brand new stealth game called Erebon Shadow Legacy, which is coming in 2023 as well. And this one was a bit tough to get a full read on. We got a little bit of gameplay. Kind of looks like at first I thought it was a top-down game, but it looks like it's just a third-person action game where you're employing a lot of stealth. It's not clear yet if it's an open world or level based, but you're basically stealthing around taking out robots, and pretty simple concept, but it looks really well executed. The stealth, as you move through the shadows, you actually like, it's like you're swimming through the shadows almost. You're turning into a shadow itself, and we don't have enough of this yet to really say, but what they gave us here got me kind of excited for it. Like I'll be keeping my eye on this one.
Yeah, that mechanic is kind of what took me from that's kind of neat to actually being more interested. It looked kind of cool, like sci-fi, like not quite cyberpunk, but sort of like industrial sci-fi touches of fantasy in there. And you're like a rogue assassin type person, and you're sneaking up on these robot things and taking them down. Um, but traversing the shadows, like as a shadow, where anytime you're in the shadows, you swim through them, and which is funny. This is, we talked about all these different types of shrunken games we got. This is the second move through the shadows game we've got out of all these showcases, but a very, very different one than is it Skim? I think was the indie game where
Oh, I was like, what are you talking about? Yeah, from
you
the other
jump through
showcase,
shadows.
Skim.
Very,
Yeah,
very different games, but both
that
shadow
is
creature,
interesting.
both shadow traversal games. So maybe that's becoming a paradigm, but I'm for it. I like the idea. It kind of plays into that thing you have as a kid where it's like the floor is lava, or if you ever jumped shadow to shadow, or you have to step on the right type of stone when you're walking somewhere as a child, it kind of hits those notes in you where you're like, okay, I got to stay in the shadows. And it's cool too, because you'll have like a windmill blade that's moving, or a fan that's moving, and therefore its shadow is moving. So you kind of have to time your movement to stay in the shadows, and that type of thing looks really fun. And stealth games are not necessarily my immediate go-to, but if there's something interesting about the stealth like this, I could be very on board. I would like to see more as well in terms of, are there different biomes? If all of the biomes look like this one area we saw, it might get a little tedious, but are there some different biomes? What does more of the combat look like? Would love to get a better sense of the narrative, but I'm interested.
Yeah, the art style looks very cool as well. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll get some more information on it. Like you said, we don't really know the scope of the game or anything like that yet, but this was a good first look. So from there, we got another look at Diablo 4, kind of a long wind up to showing the new starter class, and then we got a bunch of gameplay. As a whole, we've talked a little bit about this with the whole mess that is Diablo Immortal currently happening. Diablo 4 looks like it will be a very cool game. I like
Mm-hmm.
everything I'm seeing. I'm mildly excited for it, but all of this in the context of I don't trust Blizzard whatsoever at this moment. And I'm very concerned that although I don't think this will have as bad of monetization as Immortal, um, I wouldn't put it past them to have still way too bad of monetization in this game. So we'll see if the game is not ruined by the storefront, then this looks like it will be a lot of fun. I
Yeah.
think.
if they don't ruin this game, it's going to be amazing. Is also
It's
how I
amazing
feel
how
about
many
it.
times we have to say that, though. Honestly, like
It's a shame. I get the same sense. This looks really cool. I've played Diablo in the past, not Immortal, but like the older Diablos. It's a fun game. There's a reason it's popular. I love a lot of the Blizzard franchise, like or IPs. It's such a corporate term, but like the worlds they create are generally cool. Um, it looks fun to be a necromancer or a I'm forgetting the specific names of the other classes, but the druid or there's
barbarian,
barbarian. Um,
rogue.
and there's like a wizard or a something like something akin to a wizard. Um, it looks like dark fantasy fun. And there's something about kind of the top down, sort of isometric angle. It's a different play style than some of the other fantasy games we get, but it's like a mix of like exploration, a little bit of hack and slash, looting, RPG, leveling up. It's a lot of things I love in a
It
setting I
gave
love.
me the visually. It looks fantastic so far. Pretty impressive visually, and then it gave me a lot of World of Warcraft vibes actually,
Yeah,
because they're
in a good
talking
way.
about dungeons and raids, and there's even like world bosses, which they kind of
Hmm.
showcase in the trailer here, where a bunch of players are fighting this giant ogre-looking thing with a giant hammer, and just looked like a lot of fun. So we'll see if it lands. We'll see how badly they how invasive the monetization is for it, but
Right.
I'm looking forward to it trepidatiously. We'll say.
Same. I'm excited with an asterisk.
There you go. We got to look at Sea of Thieves, which continues to truck along. Season 7 is coming. I probably should hop into that game at some point, but I still haven't. It's kind of like the No Man's Sky thing, where it's like it's only gotten better, and apparently a lot of people still play it, but I've never really played it. So one of these
Same.
days,
Yeah, I
still
like
going.
pirates, and I've never played it. So
The
at
end.
some point, I'd like to try it. But glad it's still going though. Like it's nice having
Yeah,
an open world pirate game out there. Like I like knowing I have the option to dip into that.
I like
So
knowing it's
nice.
there.
Yeah.
I think this is the perfect quintessential game for Microsoft too on Game Pass. Like it's just a steady game that's there. They push out updates to it. It's a reason. It's one of those constants for Game Pass, and I think
Yeah.
that's good for the service. So after that, we got to look at Ravenlock, which very interesting. This game was it's like Alice in Wonderland esque, and kind of has a bit of this Minecraft Lego block look to it, but also not. It seems to be mixing a lot of different art styles,
Hmm.
but visually very it's visually arresting. It looks great to look at. Is kind of my takeaway from this. I'm not quite sure. Parts of it felt um, almost too kid like. I mean, the main character running around, I told you, reminds me of a me from like a Nintendo Me,
A little bit.
and that's a little bit of put me off just a little bit. But everything else looks fantastic. The environments, the bosses, the design of the world looks really cool. So I'm really interested to find out more of what this game actually is. But it looks very imaginative, and again, it sounds like a broken record, but I have my eyes on this from the showcase. There's just almost nothing in the showcase that was bland.
Yeah. Yeah. This looks interesting. It looks very Alice in Wonderland, which is intriguing. Like it's kind of a twisted ersatz fantasy world, um, with really cool creatures and bosses. Like some of the designs of these creatures were really neat, and the boss fights look kind of challenging. And like there's mechanics you have to learn, which I know you're a sucker for, and I've very much become a sucker for. Like not to compare everything to Souls, but learning how a boss works and having to kind of learn its move set to be able to beat it. It's just nice to see that. Like I could easily see something that's kind of such a strange, almost kid like fantasy world. It could be easy for this to be button mashy or uh, over the top easy, but seeing a little bit of challenge in some of these boss fights, at least from the video we saw, um, looks pretty interesting. So I am going to be keeping an eye on this for sure.
I know I need to create a list of all these games to kind of keep tabs on them because this one is 2023 as well. So we have a lot
The
coming.
list is like most of what they showed at
Assumedly,
this point.
pretty
It's
much,
like
yeah.
80% of
Assumedly,
this showcase.
yeah. Assumedly, first half of 2023 from what they told us about the showcase. After this, now this is probably my most anticipated game from the show. Well, I mean, Hollow Knight Silk Song's in here, but we talked about the No Date.
Other
This
than
was the
Silksong.
biggest.
Yeah.
This was the biggest like surprise that I was like, this game looks amazing. It looks exactly like my kind of game. Can't wait to play it. It's called Cocoon, and it launches in 2023 from the creator of Limbo and Inside, which is funny. I didn't even see that the first time I watched this whole gameplay thing. I was like, this game looks fantastic. After we rewatched it, saw that it was from Limbo and Inside. I'm like, oh, of course. Well, that makes a lot more sense why this looks so incredible. But yeah, this looks to be a top-down. In contrast to Limbo and Inside, it's much more colorful, but it seems to be staying true to the puzzle roots of those games, kind of the
Right.
narrative, um, ambiance-filled puzzle theme. And so this one has you carrying around different orbs that do different things, it looks like. And then also there's kind of this Russian nesting doll effect to the world where like you'll set a certain color orb somewhere and then you actually will like go into it and it's another world where with another puzzle. So there's kind of, it's like folding in on top of itself. Looks
Yep.
super trippy in the gameplay when he like gets sucked into the orb into another world. All
Orbception.
of the, yeah, exactly. All of the world. Yeah, it's kind of like layers of dreams, right? So all of the gameplay mechanics that were showcased, like this elevator thing and kind of hopping over areas and dropping an orb, and one of them you're like pulling an orb and it's pulling a giant rock or structure behind it. It seems like there's a lot of different mechanics that all just look very satisfying to do, and also visually look great to look at. So I don't know, this game. This is definitely a me kind of game, so I'm
Yeah.
really looking forward to this one.
This is in the top couple of games from the showcase for me as well. It's such an imaginative, kind of abstract sci-fi ish world. I'm not exactly
Yeah,
sure. Um, and just the puzzle elements look really great. Looks like there's a lot of depth to them, but also some intuitiveness. Like I always love in puzzle games when you're watching and you start to piece together like, oh, I think, oh, you should go here.
this
And it like
does this, or
you already start
yeah,
to think of like it implies some of the mechanics a little bit and it gets you excited. Like from the trailer, I was already like, oh, I want to solve this puzzle, like pause it. Which is a good sign because there are a lot of puzzle games we saw in the Day of the Devs indie showcase. Some of those looked really good, but there were a couple of them where the puzzle just I didn't care to solve it or I didn't fully understand it.
yeah. That's kind
So
of important.
it is kind of important. So it looks great. Obviously, a lead gameplay designer coming from Limbo and Inside. I think we can expect this to be pretty good. And the concept looks phenomenal. And it's nice to see like kind of a change in terms of scenery and art style, but following some of those same roots. So very excited
Yeah,
for Cocoon.
super impressed. You're like this little moth boy, which is interesting. I don't know narratively how this is all going to work, but and the art style is very kind of has this clay aspect to it. So everything about it, I loved everything about this game. Can't wait to play Cocoon. It's near the top of my indie anticipated games coming out next year now. So from there, we got to look at Wolong Fallen Dynasty. Didn't really call out to me. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
All right. I mean, it didn't look bad. It's just didn't call out to me either. But I could see people liking this. Like the art style looked kind of neat. Ninja type games. It looked fairly good. So yeah, nothing else to add. But the weak points in this showcase still looked fairly good. But that one's
Yeah,
probably not for
yeah,
me.
that's true. I would agree. Then we got our Hideo Kojima tease. So his idea coming sometime in the next 12 months.
I gotta say,
Um,
we don't know what the idea is, but man, can you believe he has an idea?
it says believed but not confirmed to be Overdose. Apparently, we've got some sort
Right.
of leak that it will be titled Overdose.
And we talked
I don't
about
know.
that in one of our This Week in Gaming episodes last week that there's a rumor about Overdose and that Hideo Kojima wasn't, or that their studio wasn't commenting on it. This kind of feels like it coincides with that. So great. It's Hideo Kojima. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm sure he'll have some wild story and video game that is going to be fun and mind bending to play. I look forward to whatever it is whenever it comes out. It's funny that he can come into a showcase like this and be like, I have an idea.
I
That
know.
is all.
I
Talk
don't
to you
think
later.
there's anyone else in the industry that could do that and like
Oh,
people and not have people go like that was dumb. I think he's
Yeah,
the
I
only
don't.
one who can do that.
Yeah, because even
So
other notable people like Corey Barlog has a lot of clout, but even him, like, I some of it is Hideo Kojima's brand. Like, he's very mysterious and kind of like
yeah,
he plays almost like a Willy Wonka type figure within the games industry. So,
you know what I
I
think?
think.
Oh, he totally does.
What do you think?
I think he's actually not doing anything with Xbox, and this was all just a red herring as well. That's my
Could be.
that's my guess. Like we talked about in one of our recent episodes, I just can't wait for his game to be announced, or games. Apparently, I don't know. I just want it to be over because I'm tired of all the conjecture, and the that whole thing with Abandoned was just torture from last year. So
Mm-hmm.
excited to see what he does, and I can't wait for that to be done. After that,
Yeah.
we got news that pretty much all of Persona is coming to Xbox and Game Pass, which is huge. It'll be the first
It's
time
great.
that it's made its way over to Xbox, and some of these games really haven't been easily playable for quite some time. Persona 3, portable especially. So, news came out later that these are also coming to, I believe, PC and PlayStation. These ones that aren't already on it. So, but that's a huge get for Xbox to get.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, especially Persona 5 Royal being just a just a huge game that so many people love. Finally having that on Game Pass, so that was a big announcement. And then they ended the show, of course, with Starfield. So we'll take a minute to talk about Starfield, which has kind of gotten mixed reception since it's kind of big. This was our big blowout of actual gameplay and actually seeing what the game is for the first time, right? And that's kind of the danger of the hype machine when you haven't even
Yeah.
seen what a game is, right? But so we got a pretty extended look at this. I mean, several minutes of gameplay, and then he kind of described some more things. Went back into some more gameplay of like you can customize your ship, you can fly your ship. Um, there was a lot to pick apart. Where do you want to start? What stands out to you from the
Man.
Starfield reveal?
Yeah, I would say we can start with the good and then go into our concerns. I would say overall I'm a little bit mixed, but skewing positive. I think this looks pretty good. I'm excited to play it. I liked how much gameplay they showed us. Like, I feel like they gave us a fair assessment of what the game is going to be like. So kudos to them for that. I think this will end up being pretty fun. It feels like um, what's the comparison we were talking about the other day? You said Mass Effect
Quite a few
meets
things. Mass Effect,
Fallout,
Outer Worlds.
Outer
You said Fallout.
Worlds,
I said Outer Worlds, and then obviously No Man's Sky, which is the big
No Man's
comparison.
Sky. That's the one I was forgetting and trying to think of.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think the mechanics of like combat and uh, traversal and things like that, they feel structurally they feel like Outer Worlds or like the Fallout games. Um, they feel a little bit more modernized, but they do feel like a similar structure, which could feel a touch dated. And I think, in terms of combat, like the Fallout combat was never the highlight for Fallout for me, at least. Uh, it there were some interesting things to it, but I think it's a bit dated at this point too. So it seems like there's maybe some things they're bringing to this that will make it a little bit more modern. But structurally, there's some of those elements. But then it kind of feels like No Man's Sky in the sense of you're exploring some portion of the galaxy. You can have spaceships, bases. You can go to a bunch of different planets, and we'll get to that a little bit more later. I will say the positive things that stood out is visually, this looks really cool. The vibe is really neat. It's a very cool. It's funny with sci-fi; it's so easy to feel generic, and they somehow managed to like get their own sci-fi vibe. Like this doesn't feel like Star Wars or Star Trek or it feels a little No Man's Sky, but it kind of feels like its own thing. It has this. The spaceships have like a future sci-fi mixed with a little bit of like Apollo rocket feel to it somehow. It's a really
some
cool.
realism. Yeah,
Yeah, they kind of pull some really cool elements together. The hub space station seems really neat. I think the narrative components sound interesting. I tend to like Bethesda has had some really cool narratives in their stories. So the idea of a No Man's Sky esque game with a compelling narrative could be really cool. Some of the crafting elements look interesting. Um, yeah, those are some things that looked neat to me. What did you think about it?
Okay, so yeah, starting with positives, I agree. The graphics look great. This looks like this looks like a proper next gen game, which is good. I mean, this has been in development for quite some time, and sometimes these games that take so long by the time they come out, they don't quite look up to par with modern standards. But this one looks visually, it looks great. I really like the UI. I'm noticing as I'm rewatching this.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
Sometimes you watch a reveal for a game and you're like, oh dear lord, I hope they change the UI because this is atrocious. This looks really clean. I like it. Um, I don't know. There's a lot, like you said, there's a lot that I liked about this. Just, I would say the majority of this I found to be really cool, especially later in the showcase. They showcase different environments, different areas, cool, really cool looking alien creatures. Just a lot of variety we get to see. And so there's so many aspects of this that I'm looking forward to. I think they're doing, hopefully they can do all these systems well because they're doing a lot of systems, right? You can build your own ship, which then you get to navigate in first person. So that's a pretty big feature. You get to build your own like colony basically, and the way they said it, you can do it anywhere on any planet. You can
Yeah,
start to build very No Man's Sky. You can build a base and hire people to come work at the base and gather resources for you, assumedly things like that. Um, Fly your ship in space. Like there's just a lot going on in this game, which I think we kind of all expected. Um, a lot of it I'm liking, but to kind of transition that because it's so linked to the things I also am very concerned about. Um, and I think we're on the same page here. Namely, at the very end, he says, "How big is this game?" And it's kind of that thing where it's like a show off thing, like, "Oh, we want to tell you how big our game is," but all too often these days, it kind of backfires, and people are like, "I don't trust that your game can be quality if it's that big, or I don't want it to be that big." Right? The Assassin's Creed problem lately. But even on a grander scale here, he says there's 1,000 planets is essentially what it amounts to
yeah,
that you can visit. And not only are there 1,000 planets, but you can land anywhere on the planet, right? And so that immediately to me triggers that No Man's Sky PTSD from launch, where yeah, there's infinity planets, and yeah, I can land anywhere on the planet, but the problem is none of it is interesting. None of it is worth exploring, right? Because it's all procedurally generated, and I tend to not like procedural generation at its core. Maybe it'll get to the point where it gets so good that it's like a handcrafted area. Maybe we'll get there, but for now, um, this game kind of to me is going to live or die based on how many bespoke handcrafted areas there are, and if all of the rest of the planet is procedurally generated and you can go explore that if you want, but it's not the core of the game, then I'm fine. But if they're really leaning on that procedural generation, then this is going to be tough for me because yeah, it's all too often not interesting. Just everything is this, you cannot design an entire interesting planet, let alone 1,000 of them.
yeah.
Like it just can't be done. And No Man's Sky has continued to iterate and work on that, and apparently gotten better. But that really does concern me. So those are my
Yeah.
thoughts. I know you mirror a lot of them, but if you want to elaborate.
I do. I have three main concerns. And one I touched on, which was, will some of the mechanics of traversal and combat feel dated, or have they sufficiently upscaled that from things I've experienced with like Fallout 3 or 4? I presumably they will do some of that, but that's a pretty mild concern I have. The second one being, there's a red flag when he's like 1,000 planets. I mean, in theory, that sounds great. Like you said, the idea of procedural generation is super cool. In practice, it hasn't really worked. I don't think the technology is there to make something truly engaging. You have the shallow ocean effect. But to your point, that could still work, and I think a little bit of shallow ocean actually is fine and can add that feeling of scope and epicness of the universe. So if that's the way they're going to lean on it, that could be totally fine. Could even be cool. But the key is they really need to have very intentional experiences that are the core of the game. And so if they have 15 to 20 planets that are like uh, heavily intentionally designed with maybe multiple locations you can land at, or at least a core large location on 15 to 20 planets that are very specifically and intentionally designed, and you feel like you're getting a game that was created, and it feels like something that a team of skilled game designers put together, Uh, Great. And then if you also have, you can go to procedural generation generated no man's land of, the other side of this planet or that star or moon, whatever. Um, I'm cool with that. And if it's resource gathering, it could be kind of fun to go randomly go to a different planet and see a slightly different procedural generation to try and get some more resources. But if the whole game is relying on that, then I worry. And I get the sense that they definitely put some crafting into this. It's going to be like, where is that line drawn? If they have one or two, like as you said, bespoke experiences, I worry that that's not going to be enough for this to feel engaging throughout the entirety of the gameplay. But if there's enough of that, then I think I'll be fine. So that's my second worry. Um, and I think and now I'm forgetting what my third my third worry was with
Well,
this
think
game.
about it. I can jump in here, but
Yeah, go ahead.
so yeah, that's my thought. Is that like if this were 100 planets, I could conceivably think, okay, you've got probably a couple main locations on each planet, and then maybe you've scattered throughout the planet various interesting things to find. The other problem with that is planets are just so big. Like think about Earth. We travel to specific places on Earth that we want to see. There's a lot of Earth that is kind of unused, or we're just the flyover states, right?
I got lost and
So
separated from my wife and family in Target the other day, and
exactly.
it legit took me 10 minutes to find them. So, and
So
that was
so my
that was
thought
Target.
exactly. So my thought is like in a Zelda game, think of Breath of the Wild. They hide shrines or little puzzles everywhere, but the map is appropriately sized so that you run into them or you see them or you find them. On a planet, if you hide things on a planet, how am I going to find it? Like we haven't yet. We're at this point in gaming where we can create a planet with procedural generation, but we haven't been able to really functionally make that work in a game where it's engaging. Right, the size and the scale of a planet is just too big
Mm-hmm.
to properly hide things. You can't hide things on a planet; no one will find it. And then the other problem is it's too big. You can't fill a planet with things to do because it's too large. So we're at this
And
weird
even if
point
you
where it's
could,
like,
then players aren't going to have time to play
yeah,
it.
yeah, like there's
I
a lot
still
of
haven't got
problems
through
to
Elden
figure
Ring.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we're at this point with planets and games and scope where we can do something, but we probably shouldn't yet. We haven't really made it make sense yet. So yeah, that is a concern for me. And like I said, if it were 100 planets, I'd be like, okay, conceivably you could have your team make 100 planets interesting enough. Like you said, if 10 to
Yeah.
20 were the main planets and then the rest were just passably interesting, then we're solid. But like 1,000 really makes me feel like, okay, we're leaning on procedural generation pretty hard here on most of these. You just can't handcraft things for
Yeah.
1,000 planets. You can't do it.
And again, if you have the 20 handcrafted and then the rest of the other 980 are optional, then I think that's totally fine. But the worry is how much are they leaning on this for the overall experience? Um, it's probably the overall biggest concern for this game for me.
Yeah,
But I
there's
remembered
a
my
couple.
third concern.
Oh, go for it.
So my third concern is just Bethesda's track record of late with games launching in a horribly buggy and awful state. So I'm a little bit worried about the first 6 months of this game being out. I know in time I think it will be good and playable, but like I'm worried about legit the first 6 months. So that's the
Yeah,
other concern.
I agree. The scale of this game mixed with Bethesda's track record really makes me feel like this is going to be a mess for the first 6 months at launch. There's even a couple moments in this showcase where there's a couple gameplay segments that just look kind of rough, right? And we're at this point, we're anywhere from 6 to, I mean, I guess we could be anywhere from 6 to 12 months from release. So there's a lot that can be done in especially 12 months. But there were moments in this game or in this showcase where I was like, man, even the early 2023 label gives me a little pause. Like
Mm-hmm.
from what I've seen here, I would more comfortably be thinking fall 2023.
Yeah.
Um, which is, that's the case with most AAA games these days. They get pushed out probably 6 months before they should, even after delays. We've seen it time after time. I wouldn't be surprised to see that be the case here. And it's just a bummer because everyone's left to play a lesser experience at launch because they they're anticipating it, they don't want to wait any
Right.
longer, they can go pick it up. Or you really show some self-control and wait 6 months to a year, and we'll get to play this early 2024 in its intended state. So we'll see. That's a lot of ifs and maybes and buts, but yeah, it was interesting to finally see this, because this has been just so universally anticipated as this title of a game that people are expecting to be the next coming of whatever,
Right.
and to
I
finally
will.
see it, it kind of brought a lot of people down to earth, I think, being like,
Right.
oh, okay, like I'm seeing a lot of No Man's Sky here, and there's some concerns to be had. So
Which I think is in a way good for Bethesda
I
as
think it's
well.
healthy,
It
healthy.
needs to
Yeah,
get them out of, they need to be out of cyberpunk level hype territories
yeah.
because of these issues, and just in general, I think that's bad for a game. Um, I feel better knowing what this game is looking like. I feel better knowing what my concerns are, and it oddly makes me a little bit more excited for this, because I feel like I have a sense of what the limitations are going to be. I'm not sure how much the procedural generation is going to take over, but overall, I feel like I kind of know what the general experience is, and I'm excited for that. And I'm glad that we got to see everything that we did in this showcase.
I agree. I agree. And you know what? It's good to just have um, good, positive, positive vibes back in the gaming industry. That's what it felt like for the
Totally.
first time here. Like there's been so much negativity to start the year, and this whole showcase was just awesome, just fun, just good things to look forward to. There's a couple things we brought out that maybe make us a little nervous or whatever, but by and large, Xbox and Bethesda just hit this out of the park
Mm-hmm.
and really showcased that. Despite the fact that they pushed some things to 2023, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Xbox has nothing." I mean, Xbox really kind of, I think they put that to rest, in my opinion, because from what I've seen here, what's coming out over the next 12 months, if this were all that were coming out in the next 12 months, we'd be eating good, I think, as gamers. And this is just Xbox and Bethesda. So
Yeah.
I was very impressed, and it was a fun time getting to see all of this. And I can't wait to play almost everything that they showed off, which is rare that a showcase can do that.
I know. I was with the Summer Games Fest. It was like 30, maybe 40, probably around 30% of it I was interested in. I was like, okay, that's fine. Um, with the indie showcase, it was like 60 to 70%. I'm like, man, that's pretty high. There's a lot of things I want to try here. With this, it was like 90% of the things on here I want to try. And the other 10% don't look bad. They're just not quite my style. So pretty impressed with the showing we have here. A great capstone to the Ghost of E3. Hopefully, we get more from Sony and Nintendo. I think that would really round out the industry as a whole. But even if we don't get those things, I feel like this was such a strong showing that it feels, like you said, positive vibes. It feels good to be in the state we're in with video games, even if Sony doesn't fully have their act together and Nintendo's off and sitting in a corner doing whatever they like to do, sniffing glue. Um, we're in good territory with Xbox and PC.
Yeah, yeah. And if you know what, if Nintendo and Sony don't do something soon, I mean, Xbox really won with mindshare here. I think like
Yeah.
they left a really good impression, and they're what's on everyone's mind right now. So hopefully for Sony and Nintendo's sake, they have something coming. But I don't know. We'll see. So that was our man. We really got into it, but I guess that's what happens when there's so many games that are interesting. There's not too many to gloss over in the showcase. So let us know. If you made it to this point, let us know what was your favorite thing from the showcase. Because there was so much. It literally could be almost anything, I feel. So yeah, go ahead and let us know in the comments below. And hopefully we'll have more coverage coming of the Ghost of E3 as June presses on. I don't know. We're waiting for some information. Hopefully this wasn't the end. But we will have some more videos coming of maybe some games you might have missed through all the various showcases, as well as our regular stuff coming in the future. So thanks for joining us today as we look at Xbox and Bethesda's showcase, and we look forward to seeing you next time here at Neverlight.